Hello, my name is Keith Colbury and I made the following video as an aspiring teacher to present a lesson plan that I designed around the novel Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness was first published in a three-part serial, February, March, and April 1899 in Blackwood's magazine. Then later, in 1902, Heart of Darkness was included in the book Youth, A Narrative and Two Other Stories, published November 13, 1902, by William Blackwood. In Conrad's own words, Heart of Darkness is a wild story of a journalist who becomes a manager of a station while in the African interior and makes himself worshipped by a tribe of savages. Thus described, this subject seems comic, but it isn't. This short novel is presented as a frame narrative about an ivory transporter named Charles Marlowe, whose newly acquired job takes him down an unnamed river in Africa, described in the novel as a mighty big river that you can see on the map, resembling an immense snake uncoiled with its head in the sea, its body at rest curving afar over a vast country, and its tail lost in the depths of the land. In the course of his commercial agent work in Africa, the seaman Marlowe becomes obsessed with Mr. Kurtz, an ivory procurement agent, a man of established notoriety among the natives and European colonials. In his journey to retrieve the estranged Kurtz, Marlowe makes some horrifying discoveries about the man, and by consequence, about the nature of all men. The story is a thematic exploration of the savagery versus civilization relationship, and of the colonialism and racism that make imperialism possible. The lesson plan that follows is designed to guide students through a critical analysis of Conrad's work, and lead them to investigate the dark side of society, imperialism, and savagery in the 19th century and today. Following the Understanding by Design format for instruction, students will encounter the following essential questions. What does it mean to be savage? What makes civil society civil? What role should we take in preserving or reforming societal trends? In attempting to answer these questions, students will understand that the African continent and its people have been severely exploited for natural resources. Society and civility are constructions. Luxury and suffering are inextricably connected and possibly inversely proportional. In terms of literary analysis, students will understand the concept of a frame narrative, and the ways that Conrad uses this structure to present the themes of society, civility, and humanity, not to mention the predominant motif of the dichotomy of light and darkness. Students will be able to critically read a text for symbolism and figurative language and articulate their findings in the form of a literary analysis. Additionally, they will be able to articulate their own understandings and opinions of the aforementioned themes in the form of a personal reaction to an excerpt from the text. In accordance with New York State's ELA Common Core Learning Standards for grades 11 through 12, the following established goals will be achieved. 1. Determine two or more themes or central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of the text, including how they interact and build on one another to produce a complex account. Provide an objective summary of the text. 2. Draw evidence from literary or informational text to support analysis, reflection, and research. 3. Make strategic use of digital media in presentation to enhance understandings of findings, reasoning, and evidence to add interest. 4. Initiate and participate effectively in a range of collaborative discussions, one-on-one, in groups, and teacher-led, with diverse partners on building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. In this lesson, students will explore the ways that the concept of an apocalypse has been portrayed across cultures. To begin, students will be asked to share their perspectives on the zombie apocalypse. Then they will watch a clip from the 1979 film Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, that was based on the novel Heart of Darkness. Students will first be asked to share their opinions about pop culture's obsession with the zombie apocalypse. As a prompt, they will be asked to consider the following questions. What do you think are some reasons for the persistent presence of the zombie apocalypse in popular media today? In these portrayals, what does the threat of a zombie attack change about the ways that society can or cannot function? In the event of a zombie outbreak, what would be your strategy? Would you stay with the group or go nomad? Would you lead or follow? Following the discussion, I will present a short video from the popular TV show The Walking Dead, which demonstrates one very dismal portrayal of society's savage reaction to the zombie threat. As they watch, students will be asked to write short response to the following questions. What are the factors motivating the behavior of the characters in this video? Would you describe their actions as civil? What does The Walking Dead say about the relative robustness of Western conceptions of civility in the face of a dangerous threat? And finally, do you think this is an accurate portrayal? After a brief open discussion in which students will share their answers, I will show another clip from the movie Apocalypse Now, which demonstrates another portrayal of apocalypse in the very real context of the Vietnam War. We will connect this apocalyptic portrayal to The Walking Dead and discuss the parallels of the film to the novel. Our discussion will be centered around two main questions concerning each of the apocalyptic narratives, The Walking Dead, Apocalypse Now, and Heart of Darkness. 1. What are the threats to society in each of these three narratives? And 2. What is society's reaction to these threats? Is civility maintained? Finally, as a take-home formative assessment, students will be given a journal entry assignment, asking them to reflect on the assigned readings, consisting of the first section of 3 of Heart of Darkness, and develop an answer to the following question. What do you think is this darkness described by Marlowe? In this lesson, students will explore the similarities in the way people and animals react to alienation and the connection between fear and violence. We will learn about the effects of the African ivory trade on elephant society. To begin, we will read a scientific article published in the New York Times entitled An Elephant Crack-Up, which discusses the scientific basis for a sharp increase in a number of elephant attacks on humans observed in the past 5 decades, and how it is directly related to the poaching of these elephants for their ivory. The presiding theme of the article concerns the complexity of elephant psychology and how closely it resembles that of the human species. It also introduces the idea that people intentionally deny or ignore the intelligence, complexity, and beauty of elephant society in order to justify killing them. In our following discussion, I will lead students to make the connection between the dehumanization of savages in Conrad's Heart of Darkness to the denial of elephant intelligence practiced by modern-day poachers. We will also explore the similarities between the reactions of the elephants today and the native tribal people of Africa during colonization, calling upon the numerous scenes in the novel where Marlowe and his crew members are attacked by natives and retaliate with brutal violence. For homework, students will continue with their reading of Heart of Darkness, concluding the second third of the novel, and they will be given another formative assessment. This time, instead of answering a question, students will be asked to listen to and read a quote from the novel, and after seeing an example, create a personal reaction piece to the quote using the medium of their choice, whether it be a video, an illustration, or a poem, and come prepared to share in the next class. This assessment will be used to measure the student's ability to critically read and analyze a small excerpt from the novel and use it as a prompt to express an idea about the concepts of the breakdown of society and what it means to be human. Students will further investigate society and environment in pre- and post-colonial Africa by looking at Google Earth images. The lesson will lead students to consider how imperialism can change a culture or a country in numerous ways. To begin, I will project an image of 2 maps on the overhead. The first map shows the ethnic and cultural boundaries of pre-colonial Africa with its numerous tribal territories and ethnic divisions. The second geopolitical map shows post-colonial Africa, displaying the country borders that divide Africa today. Then we will watch a 10-minute clip of a BBC special entitled The Lost Kingdoms of Africa, which discusses the rich and largely forgotten history of pre-colonial Africa. Next, I will demonstrate how to use the timeline feature on Google to view images from historical records in specific locations. We will look specifically at the Congo and the banks of the Congo River to see firsthand what has changed in the past century by comparing images of the Congo today with images of the Congo in the early 20th century. We will take note not only of the changes in infrastructure but also the changes in the environment to see how the scramble for Africa described in the BBC special was largely motivated by the desire to harvest Africa's natural resources. The Google Earth images provide evidence of the environmental changes that have taken place and will be used to fuel our following discussion of the poem entitled 1966 by the Nigerian author Chinua Achebe, which offers poignant literary perspective of the imperialistic exploitation of Africa's natural resources by colonial powers in 1966. For homework, students will be asked to use the timeline feature to research changes of their own communities in the past few decades. The main task of this assignment is to find two images from the present and from a past decade that they feel best represents their communities and the time period in which the photographs were taken. Then they will write an explanation of why they chose those two photographs and bring them to class the next day. The three example lessons that I've described are ultimately designed to help prepare students to write a thematic research paper on a topic of their choosing. The guidelines are as follows. First, pick one of the following topics: portrayals of the apocalypse in popular culture, the African ivory trade in the 19th century and today, or the societal environmental impact of the European colonization of Africa. Then consider the topic you choose through the lens of Conrad's Heart of Darkness. This involves finding those passages in the novel that relate most directly to your topic and providing critical analysis of the perspective of each character as they applicable. Describe the cultural context and the point of view. In addition, find at least three other sources, literary works, documentaries, informational texts, that provide a different perspective on the subject. Describe the cultural context and point of view that they provide. Then, compare and contrast each perspective and describe how they reflect the time period or culture from which they are derived. In designing this lesson plan, I learned that there are so many different perspectives you can take when it comes to a novel like Heart of Darkness. And in creating the video explaining the lesson plan, I learned that there are so many different ways to present those perspectives. And using Windows Movie Maker was quite a challenge, but after just a little while using it, I realized that it was pretty simple, a lot easier than it seems. The most important lesson I learned is to always save your work periodically, every 10 minutes. Have a nice night.